In this video, we're going to go over 5 of the top Fidelity index funds, and as a bonus, I'll also go over some growth index funds and tell you more about a special report that I put together with today's sponsor, the Motley Fool. That report has 5 stocks that I think could see major growth in the next 5 to 10 years, and it's available for free at fool.com/Arvabelle. So if you watched the Vanguard version of this video that I did, you'll notice that that video was ETFs, but in this video, we're mostly going to talk about Fidelity mutual funds. So why Vanguard ETFs, but Fidelity mutual funds? So Vanguard ETFs are really well-known ETFs. They typically have a really low expense ratio, and you can actually buy Vanguard ETFs regardless of what platform you're using. So for example, you could have a Fidelity account and actually buy Vanguard ETFs through that. You could have an M1 Finance account and buy Vanguard ETFs through that. So they're really flexible in that regard. But with Vanguard mutual funds, they're great. A lot of people use them, but they often have very, very expensive minimums. With most of those Vanguard mutual funds, you're going to be looking at like a $3,000 minimum. And for a lot of people that are trying to build a portfolio of several different funds, that's just a lot of money. And that discourages a lot of people from investing in the first place. Now, with Fidelity mutual funds, there actually is no minimum, which is why if you are going down the mutual fund route, you may want to look into those Fidelity funds. So that's what we're going to focus on, but if there is a Fidelity ETF that's kind of close, I will mention that as well as the Vanguard ETF equivalent. All right, so these 5 index funds are going to be based off of the recommendations of John Bogle or Jack Bogle in his book, The Little Book of Common Sense Investing. Jack Bogle was the founder of Vanguard and the creator of the first index fund, so this is not a random list that I am pulling out of thin air. I am not a financial advisor. This is based entirely on the recommendations that he gives in that book. The first index fund is going to be an S&P 500 index fund. For Fidelity, this is FXIAX. This tracks the S&P 500. Fidelity does have an iShares ETF that is similar to this. It is the iShares Core S&P 500 ETF, or IVV. The Vanguard equivalent of this would be VOO. Next, we have a total stock market index fund. For Fidelity, this is going to be FSKAX. This tracks the CRSP US Total Stock Market Index, and the ETF equivalent of this for Fidelity is going to be the iShares Core S&P Total US Stock Market ETF, which is ITOT. And the Vanguard equivalent of that is VTI. Next, we have a total bond market index fund. This is going to be FXNAX, or the Fidelity US Bond Index Fund. This tracks the Bloomberg Barclays US Aggregate Float Adjusted Index, in case you were wondering. And an ETF through Fidelity that's going to be pretty close to this one is going to be the Fidelity Total Bond ETF, or FBND. And the equivalent Vanguard ETF is going to be BND. Next, we have a total international stock index fund. For Fidelity's mutual funds, this is going to be FTIHX, or the Fidelity Total International Index Fund. This tracks the FTSE Global All Cap X US Index, and a close ETF to this that Fidelity has is going to be IXUS, which is the iShares Core MSCI Total International Stock ETF. The close Vanguard equivalent to these is going to be VXUS. Next, we have an emerging markets index fund. For Fidelity's mutual funds, this is going to be FPADX, or the Fidelity Emerging Markets Index Fund. This tracks the FTSE Emerging Markets All Cap China A Inclusion Index, and an ETF that is going to be somewhat close to this mutual fund is going to be FDEM, or the Fidelity Emerging Markets Multi-Factor ETF. And the Vanguard equivalent of this ETF, or something that's pretty close, is going to be VWO. I do wish that Fidelity would make their ticker symbols a little bit easier to remember number off the top of your head, but it's all good. If you want to see Jack Bogle's recommendations for how much of these you should have in your portfolio, I did break that down at the end of the Vanguard ETF video, so I would recommend going and watching that. So if you did watch that video, one of the portfolios that I mentioned that Jack Bogle recommends is to have an overall 95% serious money and 5% funny money portfolio. For him, that 95% is going to be everything that you have in index funds, and 5% is going to be anything else. I asked you guys if you follow that, and from the comments and DMs that we got, I would say that for the most part, no, you guys don't follow that, which is totally understandable. Most of the people who do watch this channel are pretty young, and a lot of you guys are interested in individual stocks that could offer bigger returns. So from the poll that I did, it looked like you guys were equally as interested in growth stocks as you were in ETFs and index funds. So I wanted to go over a few of the different growth ETFs that Fidelity has, as well as talk more about that Motley Fool report. So if you're looking for Fidelity growth index funds, I would recommend pulling up that main page where they have the list of all of their different mutual funds or ETFs, and you can go through those. Some of the ones that I found were FGRIX, or the Fidelity Growth and Income Portfolio Fund, FDGFX, which is Fidelity Dividend Growth Fund, FSPGX, which is the Fidelity Large Cap Growth Index Fund, and FECGX, which is the Fidelity Small Cap Growth Index Fund. And as you can see, there are some others as well. So I would just look through those and see which ones best fit into your investing style if you are into those growth stocks. Now, those index funds are great, but with growth stocks, for me personally, I do like to own the individual stocks. And again, that is totally a personal choice, but it seemed like a lot of you were kind of the same way as well. Those are the stocks that could earn you bigger returns if you find the right ones. So I'm currently looking at 5 different stocks that I think have a good potential for growth over the next 5 to 10 years. And I've partnered with today's sponsor, the Motley Fool, to put those together for you in a special report. It's available for free at fool.com/Arvabelle. It'll be delivered straight to your inbox, and you'll also get a special offer for new members of Motley Fool Stock Advisor. Motley Fool Stock Advisor is a subscription stock picking service where members gain access to their library of expert stock recommendations, which are aimed at multiplying your net worth. Stock Advisor recommends 2 brand new stocks to its members each month, sent directly to their inbox. Their average stock pick has returned over 500% as of when I'm recording this, and that's beating the market by almost 5 times. You're just a step away from joining the Motley Fool investing community and taking the first step to supercharging your portfolio. Again, you can go to fool.com/Arvabelle to access that free report and get that special offer for new members of the Motley Fool Stock Advisor. So back to our index funds. Let's say that you take a look at all of these and you are just not into it. You're not really into picking your own index funds and you kind of just don't want to deal with it. Well, Fidelity also offers target date funds just like Vanguard does. Target date funds usually have several different funds inside of them, and how these are allocated in your portfolio is going to automatically adjust as you age and as you get closer to retirement. How it'll change is that typically as you get older, those allocations will change to be a little bit less risky as you get closer to retirement and actually needing the money in your investing accounts. If you actually go on Fidelity's site, you can see these target date funds and play with the chart to see how it will adjust over time. These are a great option if you don't want to be super involved in your investing or picking out your own mutual funds. And a lot of these target date funds are based on a lot of the basic principles that Jack Bogle laid out in his book. If you do want to check out those other portfolio allocations that Jack Bogle recommends, do go and check out that other Vanguard ETF video that I did. And remember that if you want access to that special report that I did with the Motley Fool, you can access that for free at fool.com/Arvabelle. And I will see you guys in the next one.